In the starting scene, we see JJ in a plane working as a bodyguard for a pop star named Ryan. As they were talking, the air hostess serves water to JJ. JJ thanked her and started to drink. But JJ felt something was odd in the water. JJ instantly knew that the water was poisoned. At that moment, the air hostess threw a dagger towards JJ, which in turns hit the pop star, and both of them had an intense fight. The air host was quite skilled and had an upper hand towards JJ. Sophie knew that they were under attack, and she skydived towards the plane and blasted the side of the plane. Because of the hole created on the plane, the three of them falls.
But Sophie saves Ryan and JJ. At that moment, Sophie asked JJ to let her go with Ryan at the homecoming dance. But JJ refuses,
so Sophie drops JJ off.
Ryan also refuses Sophie by telling her that he have already asked Olivia Rodrigo, so Sophie also drops Ryan from the parachute.
Sophie wakes up, and it was all a dream. JJ is seen on the kitchen making breakfast for Sophie. JJ and Sophie was not in a good term. Sophie didn't like JJ for his strict behavior. JJ's wife, also the mother of Sophie, video calls him, and they had a conversation. JJ tells her that Sophie doesn't accept him as her dad, so she advised JJ to do an activity together with Sophie, which she has interest on, for a change. In the next scene, we see JJ in the CIA office as an analyst for an agent sent on a mission to collect data, which contains the information to locate all the weapons scattered globally. JJ informs her about the whereabouts of the enemies, leading her towards their goal, and finally they acquire the data. After that, JJ was called by his chief Kim to inform him about the weapon hidden all around the world by the KGB at the end of Cold War. These weapons contain suitcase nukes. He informs JJ that the NATO intelligence intercepted a document containing activation codes for this weapons. He wanted a capable person for this mission and requests JJ to get in the field to finish the mission. But JJ refuses him by saying that he had made promise to focus more on his family and be the best father he can be for Sophie. Sophie is seen in her school in the choir practicing for a performance. Ryan was the main lead vocal. Sophie clearly had a crush on Ryan and was planning to ask him for the homecoming dance. After the practice, as Sophie was going towards her class, she meets Colin, a great friend of her. They were talking about the small things about their life, and finally, Sophie asked for Colin's advice on asking Ryan out for the homecoming dance. Colin said that Ryan will definitely accept her proposal and told her that he will be an idiot if he didn't. In the next scene, the agent sent by the CIA is seen in a hotel in Turkey, where a suspicious person came for her to take the thumb drive. The person points the gun towards her head and asks for the drive. The agent hands over the drive to him, but the person still shoots her. Sophie heads towards the gym where she usually practices with JJ. But since JJ was overly strict towards Sophie, she got frustrated and headed towards home, but JJ tries to stop her and requests her to practice with him. But Sophie tells JJ that she also has other interests that require her time. Then she goes on her way. At that time, Sophie suddenly gets a message that their choir got selected in the top 5 and that they are going to Italy. The next day, the school choir gets ready to head towards Italy, guided by their vice principal, Nancy Buck. JJ also goes along with them as a chaperone. Nancy introduces JJ to other chaperones, but it didn't go so well. From there, Nancy knew that JJ had no experience as a chaperone, and she warns him that if he didn't do his job properly, she will make him stay behind. The students were divided into groups. JJ introduces himself as a chaperone, and after that, JJ tells that he have brought cookies and White Claws for them, which makes the students happy. Colin comes with his father. He looked so embarrassed as his father asked him for a kiss on his cheek. Colin and his father exchange kisses on cheek, and they separate ways. Colin still didn't know that his father was the head of covert operations for the CIA. He still thought that his father was a nurse and was embarrassed of him. They finally reached Italy.
JJ, like a tour guide, was giving information and the history of the city to the students, but they seems uninterested. Then JJ got frustrated and spoke nonsense on the microphone, so Sophie went out to stop him, and at that moment, JJ gave a present to Sophie. She thought that it was an iPhone, but it was a multi-tool device which is used as a tracker, a stun light, and a taser. Sophie was not happy with the gift and goes off.
In the night, as JJ was resting on the hotel bed, Nancy shows up and tells him that she needs a bed check roll call emailed to her at 10 o'clock sharp. JJ checks the time, and with only 15 minutes remaining, he rushed towards the student bedroom to check, but no one happens to be in their room. They were all gathered in one room where they were having a party, drinking beer and playing spin the bottle games. Suddenly, Nancy knocks on the door, and as she opens the door, they acted as if they were rehearsing the song for the performance. Nancy asks JJ for bed check update and informs JJ to be more punctual, and she goes off. The next day, Connolly informs Kim that the agent didn't brought the thumb drive to the Berlin embassy, and Kim got frustrated. The choir is seen presenting a song.
After the performance, Nancy informs JJ that the buses will leave for Florence and tells JJ to get them ready to set off. Sophie tells Colin and Ryan to sneak out after they reach Florence. They agreed, but Colin was quite hesitant.
They finally reached Florence, where they are seen staying in a hotel. Sophie had put a hidden camera in her room to know what JJ was doing behind her back. There she saw that JJ had planned a tracking device in her shoe. She took out the tracking device from her shoe, and finally, they were ready to sneak out, to go to a place to have gelato, where she will ask Ryan for homecoming dance.
Colin and Sophie headed towards Ryan's room. JJ had also planted a detector at the bottom of the door.
JJ got noticed through his phone and was waiting for them to cross his door.
But Sophie was a clever girl and knew JJ's plan, so they went towards the back of the window and reached to the street, but JJ was already waiting for them. Then JJ warns them, and as he was about to send them to their room, he felt pity for them and gave them permission to go out, but to be back before 35 minutes.
So they happily went towards the shop. Suddenly, Sophia taps Colin's hand to make an excuse so that she and Ryan can be alone. So Colin tells them that he have left his medicine in the hotel and pretends to leave. Sophie and Ryan reaches the shop and orders the gelato, and as they were taking picture, Sophie sees some people kidnapping Colin, so she rushed towards Colin to save him, but the kidnapper had already taken Colin in their car and drove off.
Sophie takes a bicycle and tries to chase the kidnapper, but couldn't chase them and sees JJ. She tells JJ that someone had kidnapped Colin, and she shows JJ the picture which she took earlier, and it was none other than Bishop Crane, an assassinator and a trafficker who will do anything for money.
At that moment, Mr. Kim receives a call from the kidnapper asking him to come to Rome alone, to the coordinates sent to him, and informs him that if he tells the CIA, they will kill Colin. After that, JJ calls Kim, and Kim tells JJ to reach Rome as soon as possible.
In the next scene, Mr. Kim is seen in Rome following the instruction of the kidnapper. JJ and Sophie also reaches Rome and watches Kim's back from afar.
After that, they get in a car with Kim, where Kim seems to be unhappy with JJ for the kidnapping of Colin. Kim also brought Bobby, since he needed a tech for this mission. The kidnapper sent Kim a phone, which had their next mission. The mission was to breach NATO vault at Aviano to retrieve activation code, then the phone burn itself.
Before they went on their mission, they stopped at a place, M16, a safe house, which got everything they need for their mission. Weapons, hard drive for the codes, so Kim decided to steal it. So they broke in and took the weapons and stuff, and as they were about to leave, Kim couldn't open the last door, which in turns unlocks the bird's cage. The birds were trained to attack any outsider who infiltrates the house. The birds started attacking JJ and Kim, but Kim saves himself by jumping onto the other side of the fan. Then Kim stopped the fan by a bag and let JJ pass through the fan. As they were loading the van with the weapon and stuffs, Kim notices that the fan has turned off, and suddenly the bird starts attacking both of them. Finally, they reached Aviano Air Base, where Kim had an old friend, Colonel Manelli. They went into the base like they were visiting the Colonel. Kim had a debt to Colonel, so Colonel was not happy to see Kim. But as soon as Kim tells him that he will return his money, Colonel gets happy and treated him well. Then Bobby and Sophie made an excuse to go to the washroom because the vault with the code was just to the left of the washroom. The guard took them to the washroom, and as the guard turned his back, they went towards the vault. At the same time, Colonel offers Kim to repay his debt by letting JJ fight with one of his best fighter. While on the other hand, Bobby tries to hack through the security and get access to the code. Kim and JJ was just wasting time to distract the Colonel and waited for Sophie and Bobby to return back. They finally got access and returned with the code. At that moment, Kim signaled JJ to knock his opponent, but JJ got knocked out of the ring.
Later, after that, the CIA got information from the NATO base Aviano that shortly after Kim entered the base, the activation code for 100 suitcase nukes was just got downloaded from their server. So now the CIA was also after Kim and his team.
The kidnapper finally sent them the location to exchange the code for his son. Kim and JJ goes for the exchange, while Sophie and Bobby works as an analyst to inform them about the unusual activities of the kidnapper.
But it was a trap, and the kidnapper surrounded them and fires a gas bomb.
When they woke up, both of them were already tied up and was left hanging. On the other hand, Sophie had an advanced satellite that have already tracked JJ's phone, and they advanced towards them. Crane shows up and checks for phones and stuffs in their pocket and breaks them. At that moment, their leader arrives, which was none other than Nancy, and she told them that she infiltrated their world months ago and that she was the one who gave the information about the weapons cache, and that everything that had happened till now was according to her plan.
They let Kim down and asked him to give them the code to trade for his son. JJ tries to convince Kim not to give the code, but Kim gives the code to them. Nancy didn't keep her word and tells Crane to kill Colin and took Kim with them.
Before leaving, Nancy injects neurotoxin on JJ and tells him that he'll suffocate and die slowly. As JJ was lying unconscious, Sophie and Bobby reaches and starts to give CPR on JJ. Then Bobby injects atropine and adrenaline to fight the toxin, and then JJ wakes up right after it and informs them that they need to save Colin before Crane kills him. They headed towards Colin since Bobby was the only one who can track Crane, and since JJ was half paralyzed. So Sophie took the wheel and headed towards Colin. Colin was tied up, but he managed to free himself. Crane reached and found out that Colin was missing, but then he suddenly saw Colin and starts shooting at him. Colin ran towards the sunflower garden and was hiding there. Crane also reaches and starts finding him. Then Crane suddenly finds Colin and was about to shoot, but JJ arrives and saves Colin, and they started to fight. Bobby starts firing towards Crane from a distance, but because of her bad aim, the bullet slices towards JJ's arms. Then Crane manages to run away with a motorcycle. After that, Sophie finally tells the truth to Colin about his father's job and that his father have traded himself to save him and told him that Nancy was actually a terrorist. Colin thanks Sophie for saving him. Nancy finally manages to get in hand one of the suitcase nuke hidden in the church. JJ and Bobby tries to track Kim but couldn't get any lead. Then Colin and Sophie comes by and wish them good night, but Sophie insisted JJ to help them track Kim. Then JJ tells Sophie that Colin is in love with her and that she should stop hurting Colin. Sophie was kind of clueless.
At that moment, Bobby tracks Nancy and the email that was sent to Crane. From the email, they came to know that Nancy was about to detonate a weapon of mass destruction under Rome Financial District.
JJ informs the bomb squad of Rome, and they begin to investigate the area and finally finds the bomb. But it was a fake bomb, and it seemed that they were playing with JJ to make a fool out of him.
After that, Nancy is seen in Vatican City, where G7 summit was taking place, and that she was actually planning to detonate the weapon of mass destruction there.
JJ and his team also reaches the spot, and after that, they tried to track Kim through a spare battery, which Kim always carries, since the battery got E-tags on them, so they try to track him from it.
At that moment, Nancy aired their message everywhere that they have placed bomb under Vatican and demands that they want $50 billion per G7 country, and warns that if their demands are not met, then they will detonate the bomb.
Then JJ and Bobby finally reaches where Kim was held captive, but they were caught and brought them to Nancy. Crane started hitting JJ and tells him that he have killed all his friends from Platoon and also the agent Christina and also his fish Blueberry. Then JJ gets angry and threw pencil to distract the terrorist and started hitting them.
At that moment, as Nancy was about to shoot JJ, Bobby hit her with a frame, but Nancy hit them back and run away.
JJ and Crane had an intense fight, and during the fight, Crane activated the kill switch and run off. JJ chased after him with a motorcycle. At the same time, Bobby was trying to deactivate the bomb. Mr. Kim also follows after Nancy to catch her, But at that moment, Connolly from the CIA comes and catches Kim, thinking that he was one of the terrorists. But Kim convinced them, and they started to trust Kim. Sophie also headed towards JJ to catch Crane. Finally, JJ gets a hold onto Crane's car and fights in the car, which make the car crash. After that, Crane pulls out a gun and was about to shoot JJ, but Sophie arrives and throws dagger, and lastly, JJ stabbed Crane's heart. The car falls onto the water, which had the kill switch, so JJ runs and gets in the water to get the kill switch and stops the bomb from detonating. Colin finds Nancy on the street and tries to stop her, where Kim arrives with the police and arrests her. Finally, Sophia asks Colin for homecoming dance, while JJ and Kim was seen spying on them with a satellite. Lastly, Bobby and Kim ends up together. Thank you for watching Movie Mind. Subscribe for more update.